Welcome back to this explainer. Today, we're doing something a little bit different. We are executing a forensic naval audit based on some incredibly dense, completely fascinating intelligence documents. We're going to look at exactly how the deep state reportedly uses the abyssal plane as its ultimate classified vault. Because according to the source material we're digging into, the ocean floor is actually where the most secretive military operations in human history are taking place, literally right under our noses, completely hidden from public view.
Okay, so let's dive right into this by shifting our attention away from the sky and into the crushing, terrifying depths of the ocean. The documents pose this absolutely fascinating question. When a transmedium craft suffers a catastrophic failure of its mass reduction drive and sinks, well, standard surface salvage ships can't exactly be used without attracting Russian or Chinese spy satellites, right? So what exactly is the workaround here?
Let's start with Section 1, the underwater battlefield.
To really understand this theater of operations, the sources point us straight back to the famous 2004 USS Nimitz encounter. You know, standard human aviation essentially stops right at the surface, but water is literally 800 times denser than air. And while that makes high-speed travel pretty much impossible for our conventional craft, the documents argue that a breakaway fleet actually uses the ocean's immense density as an impenetrable shield. It's the perfect hiding place for advanced physics.
So, the really crucial point here is that during that 2004 Nimitz encounter, Commander David Fravor's 40-foot wingless Tic Tac was actually first tracked by radar under the water. The documents emphasize that it was visibly churning the surface before it ascended. That makes it a transmedium vehicle. We're talking about a craft capable of operating seamlessly in both the atmosphere and the deep ocean by literally manipulating its own inertia in space-time bubble.
Moving on to Section 2, the Deep Sea Salvage Precedent. You see, intelligence agencies have been operating down in the deep abyss for decades. Just take a look at this timeline. It all starts with a massive historical precedent back in 1974 with Project Azorian. The sources detail how the CIA spent $800 million building the Glomar Explorer just to secretly raise a sunken Soviet submarine, the K-129, from 16,000 feet deep. The text argues that this historic, highly classified mission actually laid the foundational infrastructure that evolved directly into today's modern era of deep-sea retrievals.
Which brings us to Section 3, the Acoustic Panopticon.
Because before you can retrieve a sunken craft, you have to actually find it in the pitch black of the abyss, right? The sources point to the Navy's SOSUS network. This is a massively classified surveillance system originally designed to track Soviet subs. The text states that this network utilizes these massive vertical arrays and mathematically spaced anchor points that are bored directly into the abyssal plane. They basically use this entire global underwater grid to track the incredibly faint acoustic and electromagnetic signatures of downed transmedium craft.
Section 4, the modified SSGN fleet.
So what kind of physical hardware does the Navy actually use for these deep-water retrievals? Well, just look at the undeniable math presented in these documents. In the early 2000s, the Navy converted these massive 560-foot Ohio-class submarines. Officially, they claim they were just removing nuclear missiles to carry conventional cruise missiles. But the text highlights something super interesting. A modified Trident vertical launch tube is exactly 44 feet long. That creates mathematically perfect silos for a 40-foot transmedium drone. Coincidence? The documents say no.
The documents then go on to forensically audit exactly how these massive submarines function as completely invisible, submerged aircraft carriers. According to the text, picture this: the sub sits at 1,000 feet below the surface and opens those vertical silo doors in total silence. The drone then activates a microwave supercavitation drive, instantly flash boils the water inside the tube, and just shoots vertically through the ocean surface at Mach 5. The sources argue this sequence is exactly what Navy pilots were tracking back in 2004.
Now for Section 5, the Abyssal Drones.
But what if wreckage is scattered all across the Mariana Trench? A launch silo isn't enough for that. The sources argue that the public DARPA Manta Ray project actually has a highly classified counterpart, a fully operational hypersonic underwater drone designed specifically for this abyssal war. But the retrieval process goes even deeper than that, specifically pointing to the USS Jimmy Carter, a heavily modified Seawolf-class nuclear submarine. It is literally the only sub in the fleet modified with a 100-foot multi-mission platform spliced right into its hull. When an anomalous craft splashes down, the Jimmy Carter arrives completely silently.
It then deploys remote-operated vehicles, or ROVs, which use high-powered lasers to cut the downed bismuth magnesium hull into manageable pieces. Then, they haul that debris straight into the sub's internal moon pool. The entire recovery is totally 100% invisible from the surface.
Section 6. Surviving the Abyss.
Now, you might be wondering, and it's a major question raised by the text, how on earth do these crafts survive plunging into the ocean at Mach 5 without instantly shattering into a million pieces? The answer, according to naval patents cited in the source material, is electromagnetic supercavitation. By weaponizing gigawatt-level microwaves to instantly flash boil the ocean, the craft essentially acts as a hydrodynamic drill. It wraps itself in a permanent, frictionless bubble of steam. It literally vaporizes the laws of fluid dynamics, meaning the craft never actually touches the water.
But to survive that kind of intense microwave resonance, the hull itself has to be absolutely extraordinary. The sources point to pieces of crashed debris that have been metallurgically analyzed, revealing a completely seamless bismuth-magnesium metamaterial. It's layered at precisely 1 to 4 microns thick, acting as a terahertz electromagnetic trap. The text argues that the deep state uses these incredibly specific solid-state metamaterials just to survive the extreme pressure differential of transmedium travel.
Let's look at Section 7, the Oceanic hubs.
So, where do they actually take all this exotic hardware once it's been hauled in from the deep? The documents highlight the AUTEC facility in the Bahamas. It's situated right on a massive 6,000-foot vertical drop known as the Tongue of the Ocean. The text alleges that this base houses massive pressurized submarine pens cut directly into the trench walls. And by using quantum gravity sensors to read the mass of the Earth and navigate completely blind, these transmedium crafts can plunge straight into these submerged, airlocked hangars, totally invisible to Russian or Chinese orbital spy satellites.
The text leaves us with this incredibly striking quote, concluding that the breakaway civilization has essentially turned the Earth's oceans into a private, untrackable highway. It's a chilling perspective, really. It suggests that the military-industrial complex has severed its most classified operations from the surface of the Earth entirely, utilizing the deep abyss as its ultimate, untouchable stronghold.
And that brings us to the final thought of this explainer. If these intelligence documents are accurate, and the deepest, darkest trenches of our oceans are already functioning as a private, heavily trafficked highway for impossible technologies, well, what else is quietly resting at the bottom of the world, just waiting to be pulled from the dark? It really makes you rethink everything you thought you knew about the ocean, doesn't it?